Kyle Kuzma, the Heat checking all over the place last night. He had 38, career high, and it was a result of the night in the NBA. Lakers beating the Rockets. Houston's first loss in a month, first loss of the season with Chris Paul. They lost Chris Paul partway through. He has a strained Chris Paul. Start the Tournament of Champions with Bob Ryan. Start with the Lakers, Bob. What do they have in Kuzma?
Well, they have something very special, it seems, and I must admit that a year ago at this time, I was unaware of his existence on this earth. And when I first heard about him, I said, well, I wonder what Spanish team he played for. Turns out he was at Utah. Turns out I was missing a great show.
I don't know if you should be admitting this in the Tournament of Champions, Bob Ryan.
Who knew that the Lakers would have a Rookie of the Year candidate not named Ball? But he is very legitimately a Rookie of the Year candidate. I mean, what's not to like about the guy? This isn't his first big scoring game. This is his biggest so far, and it probably won't be his high-scoring game. They have something special. This was a big win for the Lakers. Every win they get's a big win because this is a transition, bounce back. Hey, here's what we are going to look like someday season for the Lakers. And every big win like this, I don't care where they finish up, they'll be going back, looking back. Remember that night that Kuzma dropped 37 and they beat the Rockets? And, God, that was when we knew we had something.
If they remember it, I hope they remember it as 38. Pablo, 38. How meaningful a win was this for the Lakers last night?
This was a big step forward for them, and Bob shouldn't feel too bad, by the way, because the Brooklyn Nets seemingly didn't really know who Kyle Kuzma was either, despite drafting him, because they then traded him with Brook Lopez for D'Angelo Russell and Timofey Mozgov. So, that out of the way, I think it's important to note that Kyle Kuzma, at the very least, looks archetypal. And I don't mean that he is the best player in the Western Conference or anything like that. I just mean to say that this is what future NBA stars increasingly look like. The guy is 6'9", 220. He's one of those formerly positionless guys, those quote-unquote tweeners who can play some defense, who can defend the perimeter, protect the rim, but also shoot all of these threes. Like, this is the type of player that the Warriors actively seek out, that the Celtics actively seek out, and quite honestly, this is the last time that anyone like the Nets will make a mistake on passing up a guy who looks like this, let alone plays like this.
Archetypal. There we go. How about you, Kevin Blackistone?
Wow, I didn't know we were awarding the NBA championship and MVP all in this show as well. That's what it sounds like. All right, let's slow down a little bit. This was their third win in their last 11 outings, but it was a good one because it was against arguably the best team in the West, maybe the best team in the league. Of course, minus for much of the game the stick that stirs their drink in Chris Paul. But Kuzma's a nice player. I mean, as Bob alluded to, he's put up 30 before this year. He can shoot it like Pablo said. He can get to the rack. He's a really nice player. And what you saw in the Lakers is, you know what? They've got something there with all those young players. And we know we talked about Ball all year long, but now we can talk about Kuzma and some of those other guys. They got a nice future.
Sarah Spain.
Yeah, I don't want to rain on Pablo's parade because I do think we've seen some great stuff from Kuzma. We've also seen a lot of players that look very good on teams that don't have a lot else going on. And that might be a little bit of what we're seeing now with Kyle Kuzma. Now, granted, he takes on a Rockets team that's been spectacular. They beat a Harden-led team when Harden's got 50-plus points. But that being said, I still think what this is just a good win for a team that's growing, a team that needs to mature, a team that needs to see what they've got. And it's not that terrible of news to the Rockets that they see their win streak snapped, except for the fact that Chris Paul is injured. Hopefully only a 2 to 4 week injury. If it's something more than that, it is something to be worried about. But I think that this Kuzma train maybe slow down a little bit. I am looking forward to seeing him play, but just ask Paul George what happens when you leave a team that has nothing else on it, how great you look elsewhere.
Sarah, have you heard 2 to 4 weeks for Paul? Because right now we have him ruled out for tomorrow against the Clippers. And I guess my question is, how do you play Chris Paul injury number 2 in this season after we know he missed, a couple of weeks earlier in the year?
That was just a report that I read from a doctor who said an adductor strain like this is likely 2 to 4 weeks, so I'm not speaking from my own doctoral experience. I'm just going with others' recommendations.
Okay. Bob Ryan, how do you think Houston should play Chris Paul injury number 2 on the season? Should they be more
cautiously, naturally. I mean, they worry about the big picture. They're worrying about April, May, and June. What they now know is what they can be. They know what they can look like. With Chris Paul, what it means to the team. They know that. There's no need to panic or to worry about the short run at all. Take care of him. Make sure he's okay. But we now know what they can be, and that is a championship.
Same answer for you, Pablo, conservative and not worry about the short run?
Yeah, it's about the postseason, but I will say, if we're going to read tea leaves here, the trainer comes out of the tunnel after examining Paul last night, according to reporters who were there, and he immediately goes and talks to the owner of the team. That is not a great sign if you're that level of worried.
I don't know if it's a great sign that Pablo's reading tea leaves and then Sarah's actually talking to a doctor, or at least gaining information from a doctor. And
Reading the leaves.
Sarah, you were just like a Coldplay song away from appearing in Scrubs there. I was pretty impressed. We'll move on.